Seven-a-side football with a goalkeeper and only 6 players in the field per team. That's what it's all about. 7 years ago, former Azcal's captain Anton Rosario founded the Sevens Football League in the Philippines. It is now affiliated with FIF7, or the Federación Internacional de Fútbol 7. And here to tell us more about the developments in the Sevens are former Azcal's team captain Anton Rosario and the director of Sevens Football League Philippines, Mr. Ethan Lee. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to BNC Studios.
Thank you very much for having us. You know, it's nice to see you again.
It's good to see you again, man. I remember the last time I did an interview with you, Anton, I had a show and it was called The Score. And now this show is called The Scorecard. And of course, this gentleman right here, this handsome gentleman, very busy, Ethan Lee. Now you guys are working together.
Yeah, I guess I found a good partner over here, you know. Goes from our La Salle days to now being able to build out football around the country, you know?
Oh, great, so we're all LaSallian here. All right, let's get the ball rolling. And I want to start with Ethan here because this is an Azcal's and football-centered topic. But for those who are unaware about the background of Ethan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ethan? Of course, I know you. I've known Ethan since we were kids playing basketball.
Yes.
But for everybody watching right now, could you tell us how you got into football?
Okay, so thank you, Anton, for having me here. Okay, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, let it be clear that I did not have any football background whatsoever. It was really basketball and swimming for me as a kid. But somehow Anton has, showed, I guess, playing basketball, it also made me realize that with the height restrictions that, it's a constraint that, it's a reality that Southeast Asian countries have out here, and being a frustrated basketball player and not being able to make it to the further levels, I just feel like it's a sport that our country should be focusing on more.
And when Anton and the rest of the Azcals were making waves back in the early 2010s, that was the narrative that Filipinos can be successful in football. But now it's a different era. This is like 13 years since the miracle in Hanoi, right?
Yeah.
So Anton, tell us about the resurgence of the Azcals and of course, Sevens.
Oh man, it goes back to 2004, right? 2004.
Even way back.
Yeah,
2004.
Going back to it, when I first started with the Azcals in 2004, we weren't known as the Azcals. It was Token, the Azcals back then, 2004, and then 20 years later, it's crazy because it comes full circle where we get to revive the Azcals, but not underneath 11-a-side football, but through a property that we're growing here.
Yes.
Not just in the Philippines, but across Asia, right? So this gives us the opportunity to be able to keep the name alive, but attach it to a national team, right? So that's what we're doing, but not just for the men's. Now we're also focused on the kids as well. So we want to go all the way through from under 10s to under 16s is what we have going to Malaysia in 2 weeks' time.
And this is something that you started, as in here in the Philippines. This is not something that you got from abroad. You started it from the ground up in the Asia region, right?
Yeah, so to give you some context, right? In 2018, I took a little time off of football, and then I was playing with Dan Matsunaga and Nico Balzico every Tuesday and Thursday, and we wanted something to be a little bit more competitive, right? So we set up a league just in BGC, 8 teams, 1 city, right? It got popular, and then by 2019, we had AIA on board, and we were in 3 cities across the country. Pre-pandemic, we ended up going to 5 cities across the country. Now, post-pandemic, we've been able to execute events in 16 cities across I'm telling you, from Zamboanga, Palawan, Butuan, Bicol, Cebu, Bacolod, you name it, right? So we've been able to do this and spread football across the country. And what's crazy is that, myself, I didn't realize how big football was across the country, I always thought it was always basketball, 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 but setting up these events and having the right partners in each of these locations, they're setting up events with 70 plus teams in each of these locations. Like, who would have thought that Bicol would have 60 teams over there playing in their tournament, right? So this is where the avenue is, and the opportunity is for football to be able to almost come together and talk one voice.
So in a way, they're coming out of the woodworks and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
You just had to go to these different areas and see.
Yeah, you know, it's all about just highlighting the opportunity, right? You know, through 7-a-side football, now that we have the professional league for it, we get to be able to create a funnel and a pathway for players playing in Palawan, Zamboanga and stuff to be able to then be seen, to then be able to be maybe selected to play for one of the cities across here, right?
All right, let's go back to the business side of things here with Ethan.
Yes.
You know, you investing in this and partnering with Anton del Rosario, it kind of reminds me of, and you're gonna like this, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
According to Forbes, when he first bought a majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets, he bought it for $175 million. And then, many, many years later, more than a decade, he sold it for almost $3 billion.
Wow.
So you, like, where did the idea come from? As you said, you were a basketball guy, and then you thought about investing in football and partnering with a former ASCAL here.
So it's funny that you brought up the Michael Jordan story. What happened was actually, Anton invited me to go on the Southeast Asia trip maybe 2.5 years ago. And this was during the NBA playoffs. Okay, so we're traveling. I'm bringing out my NBA app, trying to stream the games, trying to get updates, and I can't seem to get any updates. So I'm scrambling. Like I'm telling Anton, like we need to find a sports bar or anything. And he's like, yo, we're here for business, so we gotta check out the football scenes and all that. So he's taking me to random sporting football events. Like not all were top tier, some were just mid-tier and low level. But I could see how crazy the fans were and how I could not get any NBA updates. And again, this was the NBA playoffs. And that's how I realized that, hey, I think it's really I know the Philippines is God knows I love basketball, but it's really in the Philippines and the US where, basketball is such a big thing. And now I understand why football is really the #1 sport. So I said, hey, I think it was a good, opportunity, knowing that football was #4 out here in the Philippines, but it's #1 in the world. So there's so much room for growth.
So that was your eye-opening moment.
That was my eye-opening moment.
All right.
The NBA playoffs. Still connected to basketball.
If you're comfortable with revealing this, what's the ballpark figure for somebody to invest in something like this, something from the ground up?
Okay, I'll give an example. We have this Asia Cup, right, which is we're working with the ASCALs representing the Philippines, and this Asia Cup the championships is next month, October 10 to 13 at Malaysia. Ballpark figure would be about $250,000, which is about 14, 15 million pesos. So it's, yes and no, it's not a cheap ticket, but then I would say the upside is very good. Because why? Because again, in Asia, you have countries like China and India. Combine the populations of those two, I would say it's 1/3, 1/4 of the whole world already, So you can come up with things like selling merchandise, selling TV rights, it's just sky's the limit for all these options.
Just stepping in, like I said, I mean, we've been able to create something almost turnkey here in the Philippines where football is the #4 sport, right? You imagine, we popularized it here. Imagine taking a football property and bringing it to an Indonesia, bringing it to a Thailand, bringing it to a Malaysia. That's where the opportunity is. I mean, as much as I want football to grow in the country here, we also look at this as a business. And as a business, the opportunity is in the other countries. But at the same time, we also get to give back here in the Philippines and try to make it the best 7-a-side league, because right now we have first movers advantage, not just through football and 7-a-side football, but also from the business perspective, We're the ones who are creating this governing body because, as I mentioned to you earlier, FIFA owns 11-a-side football, futsal, and beach soccer. Anybody could come in and create that governance. This is where we come in as Asia and create this AFC. And right now we have 13 different countries who are affiliated with us, right? And I get to say this all started from the Philippines, So what's happy about that? I get to give back to the country. I mean, I'm very godly with my stuff, so God blessed me with football, and this is our way to be able to give back.
So since Anton mentioned that it started here, what about other countries? If they want to be part, as you said, of first movers, how do they join? Like, how much would it cost for another country to join and be a part of it?
When it comes down to the cost, we're not necessarily looking at the cost of entry into the country or into the organization, right? We understand our organization becomes more successful with the more countries that come on board, because each country brings a lot more value. You imagine a whole country and the viewership in that one country now joining and participating in us. That gives us so much more exponential value and a whole nother market that we get to then take advantage of and be able to sell, right? So that's where our head's at. We look at the scale, right? When it comes down to business, people want to know scalability, people want to know the exit, right? They want to know how they're going to ROI. With us, scalability in sport, nothing scales more than sport. Sport is played everywhere, right? So we've knocked that out. When it comes down to the opportunity and doing something good, I mean, look, people want to invest in ROI, but people also want to invest in impact, right? And when we talk about the impact side, we got to talk about how everything that happens in 11-a-side football now has to happen in 7-a-side football. We are very driven by this term, joy, right? Jobs, opportunity, and youth, right? Imagine all the jobs that we create in the world. Everything, like I said, from coaches, players, physios, kitmen, that has to be replicated in 7-a-side football. We look at the opportunity that brings to players like myself who are way too old, but I could step on the field and I could get around, right? And like I said, we're not here to compete with 11-a-side football, we're here to complement it. And then the youth, that's the big one, At least the kids, they get a dream about being professionals in another space again, right? So we get to impact the world in such a great way, but we want to start here, Southeast Asia, and move across Asia, right?
All right, Ethan, before we close our interview, kindly invite everybody to look forward to what's next. I know you have a celebrity game, and then of course invite everybody to support the Azkals as they compete in the Sevens International Competition in Malaysia next month.
Okay, so I want to invite everyone this October 6th, 4 to 6 p.m. We'll be at the McKinley Hill Stadium, and we'll be having an exhibition match with the Azkals and a couple of the 7 Super League All-Star team. And then we'll also be having a celebrity game as well. And then for the Asia Sevens Championship, which will be at Malaysia this October 10 to 13, I'm inviting everybody to please support us. And this is all for flag and country.
There you have it. Ethan Lee and of course Anton Del Rosario of Sevens Philippines. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to be here.